Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. Today we're once again talking about Skeleton Crew. So yesterday in my full episode breakdown, I gave an overview and some of my initial thoughts as to the way episode 4 furthered the mystery of At Attin, and with every clue, with every supposed reveal, we have more questions. And I found that in alluding to what the truth is, I'm starting to see they're deliberately misdirecting us. So today, I'm going to share with you another theory, a slightly different perspective on what I think is going on, some of the wider implications and connections therein. We've often spoken about the influence of Goonies, Treasure Planet, Pirates of the Caribbean, but what I think is going on, in light of the mysterious Supervisor, is a Wizard of Oz situation. And this leaked photo from just a few weeks ago now makes a lot more sense, in light of the big reveals from this most recent episode. Can't say I remember no At Attin. Let me explain. In episode 4 we're taken to At Attin, one of the neighbouring worlds of At Attin, one which is identical to it, with the only difference being, it's mostly been destroyed, not in the sense of Alderaan, in the way we assumed after what Kim said, but it's certainly far from prosperity. And so, at the end of the episode, they go to the Fallen Sanctum, and we find the names of and coordinates to some of the other jewels of the Old Republic. The only coordinates that are missing that have been deliberately destroyed are those to At Attin by SM-33 and his former captain. That was the huge dark twist. And so fans have theorized, well, did the captain try to prevent other pirates from going to At Attin? And this is where I think, and you're going to see what I mean by this as the theory goes on, the children are in luck. The captain wasn't looking for these other worlds, just At Attin. They ended up on At Attin, saw the coordinates to At Attin, stole them, destroyed them. Just like Kim, he knew At Attin was where the real treasure was, so he didn't bother going to the other planets. This is a huge clue. Bear with me on this. So they stole the coordinates, killed their crew, went to At Attin, and we presume maybe the Supervisor there is 33's former captain. After they crash-landed, he buried the Onyx Cinder, programmed SM-33 to not speak a word of it, locked them away, and rules on At Attin, under the guise of being part of the Great Work. The captain was after the treasure, and is using the currencies on At Attin to enrich himself, hoarding wealth, hoarding gold, and I suppose who really knows any other motivations he might have. This seems to me like the most likely working theory. It also explains why the parents of the children back home are not allowed to see the Supervisor. But we know from a frame in one of the upcoming episodes, the children are back with their parents and they do break into the Supervisor's tower. But what they discover is not what you think. If you look behind them, it appears as though all of the towers on all of these different worlds are the same. The pillars with coordinates to all of the other At worlds, At Arisia, At Attin, At I2, and so on and so forth. So what I think is going to happen is this. The children and Jod need to continue trying to find At Attin, and to do so, two things need to happen. First of all, KB is going to have to get inside SM-33's mind and discover what else he knows. On top of this, my dear friends, they're going to have to go to some of these other worlds, retrieve the coordinates to At I2, At Arisia, At Ariva, and go there, see if the Supervisor Tower on those worlds possess the coordinates to At Attin. And maybe it's on one of these planets we find the mysterious temple with the Sith writing on it. And just an aside, the reason I bring this up, I was able to enhance the bottom of Kim's map from the third episode, where there are mysterious cloaked figures who almost look Sith-like themselves, maybe witches. Is there a connection to Dathomir? These figures are different from the mural, but they're seemingly responsible for the At colonies, and we have to wonder why At Attin itself is so special. So then, when they do find their way home, they're going to go to the Supervisor's office, and what do I think they're going to discover? The Supervisor doesn't exist anymore. Whether it's the former captain of SM-33 and the Onyx Cinder, or whether it's an AI droid Megamind, I'm starting to believe the Supervisor is long dead. Or should I say, not everything he seems. It could be a control droid from a distance, like I said, a Wizard of Oz situation. And instead, At Attin's been taken over by the droids, the security droids, functioning solely on their pre-programmed wiring. So, at the moment, this is my working theory. The Fallen Sanctum was the key to all of it, although it did raise many questions. And as far as the purpose of the Jewels of the Old Republic, they had to have been some kind of sociological experiment. And if you look at the photos of some of the planets we're going to go to, not all of them suffered the same fate as At Attin. Some of them are still thriving. For example, there is one rather bougie-looking planet. There are others that look more desolate, but none of them have been destroyed in the conventional sense of the word. None of them have been eradicated. And yet another hypothesis, although this one I disagree with, is that At Attin was deliberately built to be a war zone, an experiment to see the outcome of two warring factions, with their own supplies and their own resources. I don't think so. I think once upon a time, At Attin was prosperous. It wasn't deliberately set up this way, but if it was, something that really caught my attention were the Imperial-era helmets. Did the Empire have a presence here? Is the Remnant aware of it? I guess one of the best arguments against At Attin being staged is why is everything so identical to At Attin? If it was meant to be a world of war, there would be no reason or financial cause to copy the infrastructure. What we do know though is the former captain of the Onyx Cinder wanted the treasure all for himself. I will say it's been very interesting seeing social media reactions to this episode. Some people are calling it filler. While I can understand this show isn't for everyone, and I can see how this episode was a real departure from how the show's been structured so far, I don't think filler is an appropriate complaint in this instance. This one finally gave us the biggest hints towards the mystery of the series. I love a good mystery in Star Wars, and the way it's paced is fantastic. Not dragging their heels, not dragging things out. We're only halfway through the show, and we've already discovered so much. It's a valid and often repeated criticism that a lot of Disney Plus Star Wars shows tend to lose their quality in the second half of the series. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that's not going to be the case in this instance, but who would have thought John Watts was the perfect person to write a show like this? Next week is the episode by Jake Schreier, and the one after that, the one I cannot wait for, is the one by Bryce Dallas Howard. A comment I received a couple of days ago that I absolutely loved is how despite being so different, Skeleton Crew and Andor exist in the same galaxy. They seem so far apart, not just in terms of the timeline, the start of the Empire versus the New Republic, but stylistically, visually, and tonally. But that is the beauty of the diversity of the Star Wars universe. And I can already see people saying I'm overpraising the show, but interestingly enough, it's only one of a handful of projects I've genuinely enjoyed. And that's another reason I love this comment, because despite being so different, both of these shows represent what I think have been some of the strongest projects of the Disney Star Wars era. And something I stand by is that Skeleton Crew has the vibe of a 90s expanded universe novel. It's got all of the whimsy of a non-canon Star Wars book that can take risks. Something I can imagine George Lucas would have commissioned an author to write that has no real bearing on the main saga, so can be a fun side project. Because Skeleton Crew is a great sci-fi show in and of itself. In an official capacity it's Star Wars, but you could so imagine this being its own standalone universe. But what do you guys think? Do you have any exciting theories for the upcoming episodes? The situation with At Attin, the other planets, the other jewels of the Old Republic? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.